There are moments in K-pop history that fans never forget, not because they were planned, but because they weren't. And on a quiet evening at the Goyang Auxiliary Stadium during Jin's closed-door rehearsal for his solo, Run Seekjin EP, tour, one of those moments unfolded. It wasn't broadcast. It wasn't scheduled. No fan cams. No flashy announcements. Just a silent figure stepping through the back entrance. Jungkook. Unannounced. Unexpected. And absolutely everything changed. Jin was on stage, rehearsing Epiphany, the song that has come to define his journey from idol to artist, from member to man. The lights were low. The atmosphere was sacred. Staff, choreographers, lighting engineers, everyone in that stadium knew what this tour meant. It was Jin's first solo world tour. His first time taking the stage alone, with his name on every poster, every ticket, every marquee. And he was carrying it with the poise of a veteran and the soul of a poet. But even the strongest need a reminder that they're not really alone. When Jungkook walked in, not a word was spoken. According to a source present that night, the youngest member of BTS stood quietly at the back of the hall as Jin finished the final notes of his song. No camera crew, just him, in jeans and a hoodie, eyes fixed on his Hyung. As the last note of Epiphany echoed into silence, Jin looked up and froze. For a heartbeat, nothing happened. Then quietly Jin smiled. Not the stage smile fans are used to, a private one. The kind that comes when someone you didn't know you needed shows up exactly when your heart calls them. Jungkook didn't run to the stage. He walked, slowly, steadily. By the time he reached Jin, the crew had already turned away, many of them wiping tears. Because they understood. They had watched Jin shoulder the weight of a solo debut, had seen him pour himself into rehearsals day and night. And now, standing beside him, was someone who didn't have to be there but came anyway. Reports say Jungkook didn't stay long. Just long enough to hug Jin. Long enough to tell him, "You've got this." Long enough to sit in the dark for one more run-through of Epiphany and clap from the shadows. But that presence, that choice, meant more than any official gesture. That IT reminded everyone that BTS, despite the solo paths, is still connected in ways most groups never manage. Not through contracts. Through care. Some fans have speculated that Jungkook's appearance was a symbolic message, especially given the emotional toll of his recent experiences post-military service and ongoing privacy violations by obsessive fans. To see him show up for Jin, not for a camera, not for applause, but for him, felt like healing in motion. It was as if Jungkook, once again, chose his family over the noise of the outside world. And for Jin, about to embark on a tour that will span continents, stadiums, and solo headlines, the timing couldn't have been more perfect. His journey, though independent, is never truly alone. Not when someone like Jungkook is willing to stand beside him, quietly but powerfully. The rehearsal ended, the lights dimmed, and the stage emptied. But that moment, one not meant for public eyes, now lives on through whispers among staff, glimpses on security cams, and hearts of those who know what it means when the youngest comes back, just to say, "I see you, Hyung." The show will go on. The tour will be historic. But before all that, Jin had a moment that wasn't scripted, and sometimes, those are the ones that matter most. And though no official footage was released, whispers of what happened backstage that day began to ripple through fan communities almost instantly. A technician reportedly posted anonymously on a closed industry forum, describing the silence in the stadium when Jungkook entered. Not the kind of silence that comes from tension, but one charged with recognition, as if something sacred had just arrived. Those who were there said even the creaks of the stage sounded louder in that moment, as if the building itself held its breath. Jin, usually composed even in the highest pressure moments, was visibly shaken, but not in distress. He didn't cry. He didn't falter. But there was a shift in his energy, subtle but unmistakable. His voice, during the next take of Epiphany, cracked, not from a technical flaw, but from feeling. It was raw, it was human, and it left everyone present stunned. Some described it as transcendent, others as the real beginning of his solo era. Jungkook, on the other hand, didn't take the spotlight. He stood quietly offstage, arms folded, watching like a proud younger brother who knows just how much it took for his hyung to get here. In an industry where appearances are managed down to the millisecond, where every move is choreographed and every visit publicized, Jungkook's unscripted appearance broke the mold. It wasn't for publicity. It wasn't for press. It was for Jin. Later that evening, one staff member reportedly overheard a conversation between the two, short, unguarded, and deeply personal. Jungkook told Jin, "You held it down for all of us while we were gone. Let me hold you down now." The words were brief, but to those who know BTS's history, they carried the weight of 7 lifetimes spent together, both on and off stage. Fans online, though unaware of the full context, noticed a visible softness in Jin's demeanor during the rehearsal snippets that made their way to social media. His usual stoic aura was replaced with something gentler, more grounded. The difference wasn't in how he performed, but how he stood, shoulders less burdened, eyes brighter, smile just a little more real. As news of Jungkook's visit spread, theories exploded. Was this a sign of an OT7 reunion sooner than expected? Was this the emotional bridge that fans had been yearning for ever since BTS began their military service hiatus? Or was this simply what it looked like, a quiet show of love between brothers who never stopped being each other's home? The fact that the visit was never posted on Weverse or Instagram only deepened the mystery. Fans pointed out that when idols want the world to see something, they post it. But when something is too sacred for the noise of the timeline, they keep it close. And that's exactly what this moment felt like, too intimate to be diluted by hashtags or headlines. Jin, whose world tour is already set to redefine what it means to be a solo artist from BTS, now carries with him not just the legacy of his years with the group, but a fresh reminder of who's still walking beside him. Even when they're not in the spotlight, even when no one's watching. Especially then, as the countdown to opening night continues, fans around the world are buzzing with excitement, not just for the performances, but for the story underneath them. A story of resilience, of quiet support, and of the kind of love that doesn't need to be spoken to be felt. The kind of love that shows up at midnight, walks into a rehearsal uninvited, and leaves without asking for credit. And maybe, just maybe, it's in these unseen moments that the true soul of BTS still lives, not in sold-out arenas or chart-topping records, but in the silence between notes, in the hug between songs, in the loyalty between brothers. They say music speaks when words fall short, but on that quiet evening behind the stage lights of Jin's first solo world tour, it wasn't the music that did the talking. It was presence, the kind that doesn't knock, doesn't announce itself, and doesn't need to. Jungkook didn't come bearing headlines or fan service. He came as a brother. And that, somehow, changed everything. In the hours after the rehearsal, when the venue lights dimmed and the last technical tweaks were locked in, Jin stayed behind. Alone. Or so people thought. One staff member, who remained to review lighting cues, swore they heard soft laughter echoing down the hallway leading to the green room. Not the kind of laughter meant for an audience, but the kind you share with someone who's seen you fail and rise again. The kind you only share with someone who's family. And then there was the song list. Notably, an unreleased ballad titled For Night was suddenly added to Jin's rehearsal docket the next day, one no one had ever heard before, and which wasn't part of the official EP. The speculation? That Jungkook had encouraged him to include it. Sources whispered it was something they had quietly written together years ago, during a late night in their dorms, before anyone knew who they would become. If true, the song might just be the most personal piece of music Jin has ever performed live. But nothing about this was ever confirmed, of course. In true BTS fashion, the meaning lives in subtext, in glances exchanged and silence held. The fans know, and perhaps knowing is enough. Back online, armies began flooding hashtags like hashtag Jin and Jungkook and hashtag unexpected reunion, trying to stitch together the scattered clues. A blurry backstage photo, maybe a hand on a shoulder, maybe a shared grin, sparked thousands of comments. This is what Brotherhood looks like, one fan wrote. Another said, he didn't come for the cameras. He came for the man who stood for all of them when no one else could. What hits hardest, perhaps, is the timing. Jungkook had just stepped out of his own storm. The chaos of sightseeing invasions, the emotional weight of military service, the pressure of his solo comeback. He could have disappeared into the quiet. He could have taken time to heal. Instead, he walked right back into the whirlwind, but not for himself. For Jin, this wasn't just a reunion. It was a passing of the torch, a silent promise, one that said, even when we go solo, we never walk alone. As Jin prepares to stand in front of thousands of fans across the world, the ghost of that moment lingers, not haunting, but holding. It wraps itself around his shoulders like armor, not of steel, but of something far stronger. Love, built over years of shared victories and unspoken struggles. And now, it fuels him forward. When the curtains rise on July 12th in Goyang, the stage will be his. But in the shadows, behind the spotlights and roaring crowds, armies will see what really shines. Not just the idol, not just the singer, but the brother who came quietly, unexpectedly, and made the world stop for just a moment so that someone he loved could finally begin again. That night, no one posted an official statement. Big Hit Music said nothing. Jungkook didn't update his Instagram. Jin, ever private despite the global spotlight, kept his words brief in his V Live the next day. There are people who show up when you don't expect it, and somehow, that's when you need them the most. A pause followed, and then a smile. Not the practiced, polished smile of a celebrity, but the kind that wavers just enough to show it's real. Fans knew what he meant. By the next morning, a shaky, low-res video surfaced from a fan who happened to be near the service entrance of the stadium. It wasn't clear at first, but as the headlights of a single van flickered off and the door slid open, a tall figure stepped out, masked, hoodie up, but unmistakably Jungkook.
No entourage.
No security team, just him, with something in his hands, what looked like a thermal cup. Perhaps tea, perhaps something more symbolic, warmth brought in silence. That video, shared over 2.3 million times in just 5 hours, became a symbol. Not of scandal or drama or marketing strategy, but of healing. Because in the world of K-pop, where spectacle often replaces sincerity, this was different. This was two people, not idols, meeting in the quiet before the storm, saying nothing, but saying everything. Industry insiders began speculating immediately. Was Jungkook going to join Jin on a few tour dates? Would they release a surprise duet? Was this an unscripted reunion or a soft launch of something bigger? Perhaps even the long-awaited OT7 return? But those theories, while exciting, miss the point, because sometimes the story isn't about what's coming. Sometimes the story is the moment, a moment of support, of solidarity, of showing up. Jungkook's unannounced presence wasn't promotional. It was personal, and it reminded everyone that even amidst fame, fatigue, and separation, the bond between BTS members runs deeper than the business. It runs like family, and isn't that what BTS has always been about? From 7 trainees sharing a cramped dorm and borrowed dreams, to 7 global icons navigating solo careers and military obligations, their story has never been just about music. It's been about them, their loyalty, their laughter, their pain, and their return. As Jin's tour countdown reaches its final days, fans aren't just excited about the setlist or the cities. They're watching for clues, another unexpected visit, a joint stage, a whispered moment caught on camera. But even if none of that comes, they already have what matters. They have this, a silent rehearsal.
A surprise rival.
A hand on a shoulder, and the reminder that no matter where they go, or how far apart they seem, the heart of BTS is never offbeat. It just waits for the right moment to remind us that love, real love, doesn't need fanfare. It just needs to show up, and that's exactly what Jungkook did.